Hey everyone, welcome back to At the Coffee Table podcast. I am Jason Klink, your host, and today I have the very distinct pleasure of interviewing Mr. Howard Behar. And if you don't know Mr. Behar, he is one of the original presidents of Starbucks. And I've been really looking forward to this interview for some time. I had seen Howard on the Ed Milet podcast, and I was just blown away by how he shared his contact information. So I'd reached out because of schedules and stuff. This has been almost a year in the making. Again, if you don't know Mr. Bihar, he has spent 50 years in business. Uh, Most of it in consumer-oriented businesses covering several different industries. He retired from Starbucks Coffee after 21 years, where he led both the domestic business as president of North America and was the founding president of Starbucks International. He started out with the company having just over 20 stores, and I believe from what you had told Mr. Ed Milet that now it's over 30,000 Starbucks stores across the globe. Mr. Bihar, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, call me Howard, please. Thanks for having me. Mr.
Absolutely.
Behar died about 50 years ago. My dad was
Uh,
been gone for that long.
that's so funny. I do the same exact thing. Somebody will call me Mr. Clank, and I'll say he lives in the next town over. He's not here.
Yeah,
Um, so, what was so super interesting to me with your interview with Ed Milet. First, you were talking about your book. It's not about the coffee, which fantastic title, very apropos. And then you were talking about your work in servant leadership and how you infuse that into Starbucks.
right.
I had read the book, just fantastic point of views. And are these all, I'm not going to say topics, but is this, kind of the mode of operation, the models that you have, come across over the years, and it just based on your interactions within business?
Yeah, I mean, it really, I got my first interest in servant leadership when I was about 26, 27 years old. I'd been in leadership positions before that, and I probably acted somewhat like a servant leader, but I was an unconscious one.
Oh,
And over time, my goal was to become a conscious servant leader,
right.
and and that's what I became. And over time, I formed opinions and thoughts about how organizations should be led. And I just, you learn as you go, and you start adding things to your repertoire and things. You find things that work, and you find things that fit your values, which is the most important thing. Leadership is, and particularly servant leadership, isn't a business model. It's a life model, and so that's how I try to live my life, as well as how I try to lead organizations.
When you look back, and another part that I found super interesting is, Starbucks started as just a coffee bean business, right? Kind of a
Right.
wholesale coffee
Yeah.
bean business that you grew from the ground up, essentially.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. We didn't sell a cup of coffee before 1987,
That's
and
fantastic.
we've been at that time. The company opened in 1971, and Howard Schultz was the one that figured out that there was a better business in selling cups of coffee and espresso than there was in just selling whole bean. But of course, we I say we. I've been retired for 12 years. Anyway, I'll still be we.
Yep,
Uh,
that's
you
fine.
know, yeah, now we still sell whole bean coffee and cups of coffee.
That's and I love diving into these bigger businesses that started out almost grassroots. Like I read
Yeah,
the book about the beginnings of Dick's Sporting Goods, and
yeah,
I'm in Central New York, and Dick's Sporting Goods actually started. The first store was just about 30 or 45 minutes south of me, which
yeah,
I didn't even know that, and it grew into
yeah,
this
yeah,
national and global phenomenon.
yeah.
Um, it's pretty amazing how these large companies now just started on that grassroots efforts.
Well, every company had to start somewhere. Amazon in the garage of Jeff Bezos, you know, and Hewlett Packard in the garages of the founders
Yeah.
of Hewlett Packard. I mean, it's everybody kind of starts somewhere. I mean, you don't start out with 10,000 stores. You start out with one and
One.
one customer, and you
Yep.
hope that one customer says, "Yeah, I like this." And if they don't, then you figure out how to change so customer number two says, "I like this."
Does it get more challenging, more difficult to be a leader when you're growing and scaling to that size, or to have that personal touch with the staff and then the other leaders within the organization?
Yeah, no question about it. It's, when I knew every store manager's name up until we had about 300 stores. And
Mm.
after that, it just got, tough. And I would send birthday and anniversary cards to everybody until we had about 10,000 people. And, it took me a long time to do those.
Yeah.
But I would hand sign every one of them and write notes in every one of them. But it's, I think there's a couple things that go on. When you're small, everybody loves you, and you start to get big, and people start to hate you just because you're big. It's called the tall poppy theory. The Australians call it the tall poppy theory. That
Yeah.
everybody wants the poppy gets tall, everybody wants to cut it off.
Yeah.
And so you're dealing with all those things, and I think the key is to stay focused on what your values are, and try to get everybody in your organization to live those values.
Okay.
And that's what makes an organization, what made an organization like Starbucks work. And it's not easy because you have a lot, there's probably close to 500,000 people that work at Starbucks now. You know, having everybody, you don't want, everybody's not going to think the same. You don't want that even.
Right.
And, but you do want them to subscribe to the greater purpose of the organization. And you have to stay with that. You have to stay on it. Leaders get tired of talking about it much sooner than people get tired of hearing about it. And so I used to say people were my day job. The business was my night job.
That's interesting, because I remember you had also said that, I believe you put it, you were in the people business serving coffee.
Yeah, not in the coffee business serving
So
people. Right. Exactly.
that's fantastic, and it's not. I got to be honest, and not knowing the background of Starbucks before this, it, it was surprising to me, honestly, because Starbucks is everywhere now,
Yeah.
and to have that value drilled into the business, I thought was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. You just have to say, this is us. And we did that from the very beginning. We didn't build the company on the backs of people. We built it with people right from the
Mhm.
beginning almost. Well, from the time I got there, we gave everybody equity in the company, even though we were private. Everybody got health care, which was unusual at the time well, still unusual actually, for people in our kind of quasi quick service business.
Right.
And you stay with it, and that doesn't mean it's perfect. It's not. We made lots of mistakes,
Sure.
and we're going through some of that right now, paying for some of those mistakes, and yeah, that's just part of life. It's not
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah, for sure. You you know, and it's interesting too, and people may not know this. You actually started working for the company for free, right?
Well, actually, yeah, I'd interviewed with Howard Schultz, who's the CEO, the chairman CEO of Starbucks again right now. He came back for the third time anyway.
Oh wow.
And the first time we met, he was. I didn't really want to go to work for another company again. I wanted to do my own thing. And besides that, he wanted somebody with a college degree. I didn't have that. He
Mhm.
wanted somebody with food service background. I didn't have that. We got down to number 10 on the list. Can you breathe? I could breathe. That was the only thing that I qualified for on the list.
That's
And
great.
then a year passed. He still hadn't filled the position, and I hadn't found something to buy yet. A company to buy it, or I didn't have an idea about starting anything. And
Yep.
we got back together again, and I said, before either one of us makes a decision, how about, can I come to work in the company for a week for free? I don't want you won't don't pay me. I want to work in the trucks for a couple of days. I want to work in the stores for a few days, and I want to work in the roasting plant for a few days. And so I did that. And fortunately, after that week, he gave me an invitation to join Starbucks. And by the time I finished that week, I knew it was the right place for me.
That's fantastic. That's such a great story. And let me ask you this:
Yeah.
with the current environment and how You talked about how you gave employees, healthcare benefits and
Yeah,
stocks, that gave them investments in the company. You even
yeah,
talked about before about how, you made sure that they were earning the right living wage to be able
yeah.
to survive. Do
Yeah,
you
well, I
think
wouldn't
that?
call it. I would never call what we pay a living wage. If you live in New York City, even if we, well, I don't know what they pay, probably 17, $18 an hour.
Yeah,
So like that's not a living wage in New York City,
true.
but certainly a lot more and than the typical person in kind of the quick service industry. But yeah.
Do you think it's more difficult to continue to provide that based on how high minimum wage is going, how high inflation is going?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I always worry about it. And we went through a thing in Seattle where, we have a high minimum wage now. I think minimum wage is in the mid 17s, and by the time we get done with inflation this year, it's going to be probably around $19 an hour, and
Yeah,
that year after that, it's going to be over 20. So so if you're tying it to inflation, that means that your prices are going to go up every year
right.
significantly, because the labor in cost of labor in a store is about 30% of every sale.
Hmm.
So, and if you have to be careful that you have to keep ratios, um, but yeah, it's always a struggle. It's
Yeah,
everybody thinks, well, it's just easy, you just raise the price, but there's a time when people won't pay the price.
true.
It happened in France, actually.
Oh,
the I don't know if you've ever been to Paris, but if
no.
you've ever been to any of the cafes in Paris, Du Magot, which was probably the most famous, it's where many of the famous writers and philosophers in the 1800s, the early 1900s would go and get coffee. And
Hmm.
eventually the cafes in Paris got so high priced that, they started to go out of business.
Sure.
Uh, and so I don't know who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I think if within some relative ratio of sanity, it'll work itself out.
And I think it just comes back to, because of that, and because you want to be able to keep people and keep them employed.
Yeah, yeah,
I truly believe that the culture that is created within the business, the organization, really, the money and the health benefits and all that, that's great. But as long as the culture is there,
yeah,
in order to keep people engaged, empowered, motivated to be working there to do their best, I think that speaks, you know, almost speaks more volumes to the staff than the
yeah.
financial end.
What gets you in trouble is when you don't listen and you don't act.
Mm,
Right? I don't care
yeah,
what it is, whether it be new equipment that's needed, or if it's about money or whatever it's about. You have to listen to your people and then you have to act on it. That doesn't mean you can do everything. You can't. But
right,
but the things you figure out which are the most important things and you take care of them.
right. No, and, I found it was interesting too when I was, studying you and Starbucks.
Yeah.
That the aprons are actually a sign of recognition at Starbucks, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, the green apron. Yeah, we have a black apron, and the black apron stands when you become a coffee master. That
Okay,
means that you know a lot about the coffee and you're able to talk about it, teach it, and prepare it and everything. But yeah, the green apron.
nice. Now, another analogy that you had made about the environment at Starbucks, at least while you were there, was the person that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the person that uses the broom should choose the broom.
Yeah, that's basically it. I call the person who sweeps the floor should choose the broom.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, you hire great people to come in, or what you believe are great people to come in your organization, and
Hmm.
then you want to tell them what to do every day, and that's not how it should be. You hire great people. You say, hey, we've got 5 brooms for you to choose from. Choose the one you like, and if they come back to you in 2 weeks and say, I was on the internet the other day, and I think I found a broom that could increase floor sweeping productivity by another 10%, then you better listen
Right.
then you better try. And every purchasing department wants to choose the broom, but and I use that as an analogy, right? I don't care
Yeah.
what it is.
Right.
I don't care whether it's new products, whether it's It doesn't make any difference. Listen to your people. Look,
Right.
there's nobody that knows more about how to operate a store than the people that are working in it.
Right.
Period.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
I know from studying leadership myself, and I was actually just having a conversation earlier today about leadership and the qualities and creating a circle of safety for your team, for your
Yeah.
organization, so people feel
Yeah.
safe, they feel empowered, they feel motivated.
Yeah.
Um, is there a certain part of certain part of servant leadership that is just difficult for some leaders over others?
Yeah. Well, I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, servant people see servant leadership as this softy stuff, right? That it's a soft idea. It's not. Servant leadership at its core is about performance. First of all, it's about performance of the leader, helping their people achieve the goals that they want to achieve,
Hmm.
and grow as human beings, grow as professionals. And if you do that well, then your people will help you. And but a servant leader has to serve first, right? That's how you have to approach it. And a lot of people can't deal with that. A lot of people want to be the boss,
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean, look, there is somebody that has to make decisions, and
sure.
you know, and you have to somebody that has to hold each other accountable for performance. But at the end of the day, it's it's about serving people that counts and helping them grow as human beings and get the things they want out of life.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of the times, like I I think about some of the leaders I worked for and the leader I always tried to be when I was working in public safety. And I think the most difficult task for leaders is to seek to understand. Dr. Covey, seek to understand and then be
Yeah,
understood.
yeah,
And
right.
you had talked to Ed Milet about working in the furniture store and going in and listening to the walls.
Yeah, the walls talk. Now, see, this is where the people that are listening to this program today are going to think I'm really nuts. But I had a guy that when I was about 21 years old, it was the first time I was in the home furnishings industry. I grew up in it, and I got my first leadership job, management job, and I was managing a furniture store. And the guy's name, the guy that owned the business, his name was Sid Sheckman, and he taught me a lot. But one thing that he taught me, he said, uh, Howard, after you close the store at night and you lock the door, go sit in the middle of the showroom and close your eyes and just listen. And when he told me that, I said, are you nuts? What are you talking about? There's nobody in the store. What am I listening to? The sofas? You
Right.
know? And you know what was so amazing is that after a while you kind of tune into the energy of the place. The walls absorb the energy. I know it sounds crazy, but it's I remember one time I was listening and I knew I could feel something was off. And the next morning I came into the store and I got my team together, the salespeople and the delivery people. I said, is there something up going on? And I'll be damned. If they were mad at me about something, but they wouldn't talk to me about it,
Wow.
right? And I learned from then on to use my antenna, these little
Hmm.
things that you can't see, but they're inside your head, and listen. Listen to what people are not saying, not
Right.
to what they are saying.
Right.
And when you do that, you tune in. I got to admit, I have fine-tuned antennas. Sometimes they're too finely tuned. I think I hear something that I don't really hear. But better to overreact than to not react at all.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
the walls do talk. And if you want to test this idea, next time you go to somebody's home and they say, would you like something to drink? Just say yes, but don't go with them to the kitchen. Sit in the living room, just sit there and close your eyes for a minute. I guarantee you, you're going to feel the energy of the place.
That's outstanding. Yeah, I've never even I you know I, when I heard you say that, I'm like, listen to the walls. Okay, but it's one of those things where you have to, as they say, read the room. You have to feel
Right.
the energy and understand the
Yeah.
energy where, and you picked up that sixth sense of there's something going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. The more you do it, the more you'll tune into it. I got to the point where I could walk in a Starbucks store even after it was closed and kind of feel it. And I certainly you can feel it when the people are in there. You get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're always what you're feeling is always right.
Yeah.
That's not not what's important. It's that you care enough to try to identify what's going on.
Now, you've been retired for 12 years. Are you still
Yeah.
recognized when you go into the Starbucks stores?
No,
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 not so much.
take your hand out of a bucket of water and see the hole you leave. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, some people do. Yeah, there's some
Yeah.
stores that I visit often that people know me and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And still a lot of people that work at Starbucks, will know me, but no, and I don't expect that. I don't even want that. I still clean condiment stands and turn the cup handles to the right on those shelves and pick up paper off the floor. They think I'm nuts, the ones that don't know me. They
Yeah.
say, when I go up and ask for a rag to clean the condiment stand, then they really think I'm crazy. What is a customer doing that for? But I still do it. It's habit.
Do you still feel that vested interest in the business?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's emotional for me. Every time I go into a store, I'm amazed. I really am. It's what we built and what the people built of Starbucks and what it is. I mean, who would have ever thought? I wish I'd have known. I'd have kept all my stock.
That's great. What what was the legacy that you wanted to leave with Starbucks and that company?
Um, I wanted it to be a people-driven company,
Hmm.
people-centric company. I really wanted what I call president-proof the organization. No matter who came in to lead as a president, that the people would influence it more than that person would, so that it would stay people-centric. Yeah, and that's the legacy I wanted to leave. And I think, I look back at the time, and I think it's what I'm most proud of. Is I'm proud of the people that grew, that became servant leaders, and that went on to other companies and took servant leadership with them. I'm proud of what Starbucks is. I think is it perfect? No, it is not. And there's people that don't like Starbucks and feel that management could do a lot better, and they're probably right. But most people feel that it's a great place to work, and the people we serve, those human beings we call customers, feel that. So that's the legacy I wanted to leave, and I think you know I didn't care opening another store. It wasn't after you open 400 or 500 stores. It's not opening a store, right?
Yeah.
It's the relationships you build. And
Right.
one of the when we were young, about 200 stores, there was a woman named Jennifer Caraman, and Jennifer kind of had been there since the beginning, and when Howard bought the company from the original founders, and she was always a canary in the mine shaft. When something was off, she was the first one to raise her hand and says, "I'm feeling uncomfortable." And she started to feel uncomfortable that we'd opened 200 stores and we were kind of losing track of where we were going and why we were there.
Hmm.
And so we did some work, and we hired a guy named Jim Collins. This is before he wrote the Good to Great and Built to Last.
Hmm.
And he was a professor at Stanford, and he came in and helped us develop what he calls a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And that's a goal that's bigger than you. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not you're going to make this much profit. It's not those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's an emotional goal that you maybe never achieve. And the goal went like this. We wanted to be one of the most, or the BHAG went like this. We want to be one of the most well-known and respected organizations in the world, known for nurturing and inspiring the human spirit. When I heard those words, known for nurturing and inspiring the human spirit, I started to cry. I said, that's who I want to be. I
Yeah.
had mission statements before, but never anything like that. Mine were so basic stuff. And when I
Right.
heard that, I said, I'm taking that as my own. And I did. My mission in life is every day I want to nurture and inspire the human spirit, beginning with myself first and then for others. And I try to live my life like that. And so that's what that's how I want to be remembered. When
Hmm.
I'm sitting in the rocking chair in the nursing home, I want people to say, hey, he set out to nurture and inspire the human spirit, and he did.
That's fantastic. And to me, that kind of mission, that kind of value, just makes the world better.
Yeah.
And have people like you and that, and it just makes things better.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a sad that I live here in the United States, I think, like you do, and
Hmm.
where it's a sad state of affairs right now. I
Right.
mean, and I don't care right or left. Anybody that's abusive, that's unkind, right? I don't care which side of ball they're on, offense or defense.
Hmm.
It's not right. And particularly this last president that we had is not a kind person,
Hmm.
and he's an abusive person, and he says abusive things.
Hmm.
And it's not how to me it's not the example we want for our children. And I'm not talking about his policies. I don't care. Policies come, policies go.
Sure.
We can have ferocious disagreements on policies. But how we talk to each other, how we care about each other,
Yeah.
you know, it's inexcusable. And I'm afraid that we're setting the wrong example. And it's not only this country; it's other countries around the world.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree with you. So, and what I think about it, and going back to servant leadership and being of service, and the political aspect of this country has changed so much, and it went from being of service and serving the people in your
Yeah,
community
yeah,
to how much power can I get? How much power, how much
yeah,
money can I make?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just it's very difficult to watch because I'm almost 50 years old, so I've been on the planet for quite some
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Grew up an 80s kid,
yeah.
and
Right.
just to see how things have transpired over my almost 50 years and what they're at today is just it's upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, life has never been perfect. Human beings aren't perfect. We had a lot more kindness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the internet has allowed way too much. It allows people to hide, to say whatever they want at any
Hmm.
time they want, and to hide and
Yeah.
not to be held accountable. When you said it to another person face to face, you are held accountable.
Absolutely. And
And now we're not.
yeah, you're right. And I can remember. And it's the basis again of this podcast of being us be able to sit around and have a conversation. You used to sit in the firehouse, and we never always agreed on anything. We would have
No.
conversation about politics or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
and you could banter back and forth. You could swear at each other all you want, but then you'd get up and
Yeah.
shake hands and go do your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Exactly. And now we don't. And it's really sad. And we're worried about what we get.
Yeah.
About what not we get, about what I get. And
Hmm.
we forgot the word we.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's difficult because it's a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, a lot of business people that I know. Some of them really embrace the we concept more than I, but
Yeah.
uh, I have also worked with and for people that it was all about what they were going to get out of whatever was going on.
All about me
All about me.
instead of
Yep.
we. Instead
And
of
and
we.
and and with these, with the phones, it's instant
Yeah.
gratification,
Yeah.
um, instant information. We're all connected. I don't know how many times I've had even my own daughter. I have a 24, almost 25-year-old daughter, and
Yeah.
she'll be texting back and forth or looking on the internet trying to get information, and I look at her and go, just call them, pick up the
Yeah.
phone and call them and ask your question.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think we
Exactly.
do. You think because of technology as good as it is, it's almost difficult to have normal conversations anymore?
Yeah, I think people struggle with that. Real conversations to have in-depth conversations. We're removed from each other, and we continue to get more and more removed.
Hmm.
And I don't think people struggle to know how to work together.
Yeah.
It's and to live together. I mean, it's I find my wife and I we share an office, right? We sit next to each other, and we send each other emails. How loony bin is that?
That's
You know,
outstanding.
how loony bin is that?
Oh,
And it's like I say, when you love somebody, really love them.
yeah,
Don't walk when you're leaving the house in the morning. Don't yell from the garage door, "Honey, see you later. Love you. Bye."
right.
No, go look him in the face, give him a hug, and tell him you love him. And it's a big difference.
I laugh at that because I think of my own wife will be upstairs in our house and taking care of something. I'll get a text message. Can you come up here? Really? We're in the
Yeah,
same house.
yeah, right. Yeah. Now, having said that, I'm getting hard of hearing, so the text kind of works better
Yeah,
sometimes.
that's fantastic. Now, kind of in the same lines here. Can you explain to everybody your 6 Ps?
Sure. Well, the first P is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I do in my life has to have a purpose greater than myself. I'm not very good at just doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have an emotional connection to it. And I don't know exactly where that came from, but it's been that way my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't understand it as well as I do now. But so first P is everything is purpose greater than myself. The second P is passion. If you're going to have a purpose greater than yourself, then you damn well better be passionate about it. Put
Yeah.
all your energy behind it. Get up in the morning, can hardly wait to what you're going to do that day. It doesn't mean every day is
Yes.
happy. And, some days I wake up, it's cloudy out. It's the way it is,
Yep.
but still you got to be passionate about your life.
Yes.
And so greater purpose, be passionate about it. And then the third P is persistence.
Mm.
In life, nothing happens without persistence. In the rivers of our lives, there are rocks. And some of the rocks we can't see. We're heading down the river, the rock sticks below the water line. And all of a sudden we go boom and we smack into it and say, "Oh my God, what happened?" You know, but it happened. That's life, right? So we
Yep.
don't see them. And so we got to figure out to get over it, under it, around it, or whatever. Or some rocks, somebody warned us about, and we can actually see it, right? And we hit it anyway. Why? What
Yep.
is that,
Yep.
right? We hit it anyway. Like we just ignore our parents, ignore our coworkers, watch out for
Right.
that rock, and we hit it anyway. Well, persistence pays in life. You got to figure out how to get over, around them, through them. The
Yep.
craziest rocks are the ones we put there ourselves.
Oh yeah, we get right in our own way.
We get right in our own way. And so persistence pays in life. You got to get through all that stuff.
Yep.
And, not everything's going to be perfect in your life. And so you got to get through it. And so people that win in life or are successful, I don't like to use that word win, but people that achieve their greater purpose in life are the ones that figure out how to deal with those rocks.
Nice.
And then the fourth P is patience. And you think that persistence and patience are the opposite of each other, but they're not. You got to be patiently persistent or
Yes.
persistently patient. I don't care what you
Yes.
want to say, because
Yep.
nothing comes in the time frame that you want it. And the most important person you got to be patient with is yourself,
Mm.
because we always want things now,
Yes.
yesterday. I want it now.
Yep.
Young people today go to work for these tech companies and they expect to be there 3 years and have $1 million in the bank. It's not the way it works. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it does. In today's world, it does because technology reaches so many people in such a
Yes.
short period of time.
Uh-huh.
But most of the time, it didn't work that way for me. I didn't have any money until I was in my 50s. You
Oh
know,
wow.
I was living, hand to mouth, like everybody else does.
Yep.
And I got lucky at Starbucks. But so, patience pays. And then the fifth P is performance.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like to be measured, but the facts are we get measured every day.
Yes.
We get measured at home. Our significant others or our spouses measure us. They may not say, "Hey, that was terrible. That was a bad job." But trust me, they're keeping score.
Oh,
And they
100%.
and they keep score. And all of a sudden there's a
Uh,
blow up, right?
yep.
And they've all the little measurements that they did, how many times you left the toilet seat up or didn't pick up your socks or whatever it was, it all of a sudden comes home to roost. Or
Yep.
at work, you make commitments to your coworkers, to your boss, to the organization, then you got to do what you say you're going to do. If you made a commitment to your spouse or significant other to have a monogamous relationship, then
Mm-hmm.
then performance means you live up to that. If
Yep.
you agree to have a project done at a certain time, then that means you live up to it, or you tell people why you can't before it's due.
Yes.
So performance matters in this world, like it or not.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
the final P is people. There's not a thing that any of us will do in our lives that isn't about serving people. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care whether you're a widget maker, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a barista, whether you're a fireman, a firewoman, whether you're an architect or an engineer. Everything is about serving other human beings. And if you
Yes.
think it isn't, think again.
Right. That's
So that's
just
the 6 P's.
six P's. I mean, and it's we all have to have a measuring stick to live by. And yours is the six P's. Somebody else could have something else, but
Yeah.
I think if we all have our measuring stick to live by and we hit those values on that measuring stick, it just makes us better people.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It makes us better people. Is exactly right.
Yep. So what does 2023 look like for you moving forward? Do you have your crystal ball?
2023. Well, I have a 5-year plan. I believe if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you. So I always have goals, and I've had them for since my mid 20s. Started writing them down, and so my life is changing. I'm almost 80. So it's what mattered to me before doesn't matter to me now,
Hmm.
and I still want to continue on doing what I'm doing, trying to convince people there's a better way to live and
Hmm.
to lead, and and I believe servant leadership is a model that really can enhance our lives. And so I'll continue to do that. Continue to do a lot of speaking and podcasts and do some writing and all of that. But I'm starting to spend more time, a lot more time doing crabbing and fishing and traveling a little more and spending more time with my wife and with my grandkids but I still want to do the things I can't ever fully retire. I need to be productive. I need to
Yeah.
contribute. So I'll continue to do that. And, I'm not in the accumulation stage anymore in my life. I'm in the get rid of stuff stage. So,
That's great.
uh,
Now,
so
w- you, geez, I just lost my thought too. But what I was going to say is, you had talked about the goal planning, and do you find that, and I think you kind of touched on it, like how often things change. So you talked about having a 5-year plan. Do you
yeah.
have shorter plans than that?
Oh, yeah, sure. I have 1 year goals. I have 3-year goals and 5-year goals.
Oh, okay.
And amazing so many times the 5-year goals gets done in 1 year and the 1 year goal gets done in five, you know, but but yeah, absolutely. I have things like everybody has.
Yeah.
I have struggled with my weight my whole life. So I've got a 1 year goal. I keep having that 1 year goal,
It's a
but
repetitive goal.
yeah, so I have those things. I have uh, um, one of the things that we do a lot is nonprofit work, and we right now we have 17 undocumented students that we're helping go to school
Oh,
in the
wow.
area in which we live. Yeah, these are farm workers' children, primarily agricultural
Okay.
workers' children.
Yeah.
So we're helping them, and so we're going to get that to 25,
That's
and
fantastic.
uh, and we stay with them for 4 years till they
Wow.
graduate college. So anyway, so more of that, and but and I have material goals too. I want a new sports car. So, I've always wanted a Ferrari until I drove one, and then I said, this thing drives like a truck. I don't want this. So I want a new sports car. We'll see if I get that. I don't know. I
That's
go back and
fantastic.
forth on it. I'm not really good at buying stuff. Once I say I want this, and then it takes me 4 years before I'll finally pull the plug and
You,
do
you
it.
you and I are cut from the same cloth in that. I've
Yeah,
been,
yeah,
I will talk about like same kind of situation. I've talked about getting a classic muscle car for
yeah,
years,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
just don't pull the pin on it.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, you wrote It's Not About the Coffee. You wrote The
Yeah,
Magic Cup. Any other
yeah.
books in your future?
Well, I post every day on LinkedIn and Twitter. I've thought about taking the top 100 posts and then giving a little more dialogue about each one of those posts. What do they really mean?
Hmm.
You know?
Fantastic. Um, so what, I guess we'll wrap this up with, what is your biggest piece of advice for somebody to embrace servant leadership, to embrace all the qualities and values that go along with it?
Well, first of all, if that's something you're interested in doing, if that becomes a passion of yours,
Hmm.
a greater purpose of yours, or one of your goals, start reading about it.
Hmm.
Read about other servant leaders,
Hmm.
and it's not always under the title servant leadership,
Sure.
right? It's transformative leadership. Find leaders that actually contribute to other people's lives
Yes.
and see what they did and how they did it, and
Yeah.
then just start to emulate that.
Hmm.
you know it took me a long time to really to figure out what all of it meant, and why I wanted to do it, and start to emulate it, but read about it. Also, look, uh, that old adage, if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. Write down your values. Who
Mm,
are you? You
yeah.
know, create a picture in words of who you are, what your values are, what your mission is in life, what you want to accomplish in life, what your goals are. If you don't write it down, it's just wishes, hopes, and dreams.
Oh,
See,
fantastic.
accountability matters and performance matters. Well, performance matters to yourself. You got to measure yourself. You should
Yes.
go home every night and look in the mirror and say, how did I do today against the things that I've written down, against my values, against my mission statement, against my 6 P's or whatever your P's are, if they're or S's or G's, I don't care what they are,
Right.
and what your goals are. Evaluate yourself, but look at how you did today. And some days you're going to do better than others. That's okay. Doesn't make any difference.
Do you still measure yourself every day?
I do.
That's
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. It's funny. I have sometimes I talk too much, and I have some beliefs about leadership, and I can sometimes lecture too much and sometimes just talk about it too much. Not everybody wants to hear you. And I went home. I'd been actually, it was at a Starbucks meeting, which I don't go to anymore at all. And I was invited to this one, and I kind of I think I went home thinking, God, Howard, you stood on that damn chair of yours, and again, and I measured myself and I said, can't you just shut up sometimes? You know, and I was accountable to myself.
Got right up on a
Doesn't mean
soapbox, huh?
yeah, I got on my soapbox, and I don't like what I do when I do it, but
This
it's,
complete. One other question I want to ask, and I just
yeah,
thought of it before, and I wanted to ask you. I found that all the years I spent in public safety, and the people that I know, working in public safety these days, law enforcement, fire EMS, it's difficult. Over the last three,
yes,
4, 5 years, it's gotten very, very difficult. A lot of colleagues that I work with or worked with, they've been trying to find their exit strategy. They've been trying to find, but they'll go try to find work in private sector or maybe start their own
yeah,
business,
yeah,
and they just don't have the additional skill set to be successful.
yeah,
It's in and a lot of times it's difficult for them to, that's all they know. They've always done law enforcement. They've always been a firefighter,
yeah,
whatever it is. But it's tough for them to recognize the need to go out and get other skills and abilities.
yeah. Well, they got to go back to school. They have to know what they don't know and then go
Yeah.
learn it from somebody else, either school or go to work for somebody and, step back a little bit and don't be afraid to step back. The dance of life, 2 steps forward, 1 step back,
Yes.
and so you can't get your ego in the way.
Yeah.
If you want to do something new in your life, then you got to learn the skills to do it.
Yep.
And we're all capable of doing a lot of things. And I know it's been difficult for people to be in law enforcement and to be in the fire department. All those things are just difficult, which is really unfortunate. It
Right.
just doesn't make sense. And what a shame. And that's the opposite side, the right from the left. The left in our country all of a sudden started abusing, police people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and as if those people were perfect
Right. Right.
that are expected to be perfect. They
Right.
put themselves in harm's way every day,
Yep.
and I'd be scared to death going out on
Yeah.
some of those calls have to go on. And we expect them to go out and not react as a human being. You know what it takes to do that? I mean, and then you know what we do? We bring them in and we put them in classes for 6 months or whatever it is, or 3 months, and then we put them out in a car driving around with a gun in their holster. And it's not how life works.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's.
and so
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
know,
Go ahead.
no, and so we got to give them a break
Yeah. Yeah.
and understand that the nature of the beast. Not I'm not talking about police. I'm talking about the nature of human beings. Can do bad things. They can be abusive. They
Yep.
can be. They can challenge authority. They can do lots of things. And
Yeah. Bad people are bad people, just like good people are
yeah,
good people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
luckily, in that environment, the good well outweighs the bad.
I mean, we're having that trouble in Seattle. We went through this deal where they took over part of the city and the city let them do it.
Yep.
And it caused a huge amount of problems. And
Yep.
all of a sudden, we, a city that should have probably about 1,700 police officers has 900.
Wow.
I mean, and we're struggling. And I have a
Yep.
condominium downtown Seattle where I live part of the time. And I've never been afraid in Seattle. All of a sudden, I'm afraid.
Wow.
And that's Seattle. Well, I can't imagine living in Chicago.
Right.
I mean, where it's hell on wheels.
Yep.
At least New York improved a lot. Well, maybe people didn't like how it was done, but it certainly solved the problem.
Yes. Yeah. And I have found even here locally where I am, so I'm in central New York, and um, the mass exodus from the police departments, especially, has been
Yeah,
astounding. They get their
yeah,
20 years and they're done. There's no more
yeah.
25 and 30-year careers.
No, because the stress is so great.
Yeah. Yeah. They just have
Yeah,
a rough time of it. And I
yeah.
had
And
heard about
people
Seattle,
aren't.
but
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was
yeah,
that in depth.
yeah. I mean, it's not like but it's close. It's a block or two here and there as people are getting shot, and it's the craziest damn thing. And it's this lack of accountability
Yes.
all over the place.
Yep. Yeah. From the
It's
top on down.
from the top on down, from everywhere, from all of society,
Yeah.
right? It's from all of society.
Yeah. For sure. Well, Howard, I will wrap this up here because I want to be mindful of your time. I am super grateful for you to join me today, even though you were kind of in between doing things. And this interview, this podcast interview, was everything I expected and then some. I appreciate your insight, and I thought it was just fantastic.
Well, before we close, let me give all your listeners and watchers my cell phone number, which is 206 972 7776. That's 206 972 7776. And my email address are my initials, hb@howardbehar.com. And I'll respond to everybody. It may take me time, but anybody that reaches out is going to get a call back or a text back or an email back.
And I can confirm that if you send an email, you will get a reply.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's fantastic. Howard, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. I
Jason.
appreciate your
All right.
insight. It's
Thanks,
been
Jason.
outstanding.
All right. Take care.
Take care.